Hello, I'm Hugo Disler from Farming Secrets. I've got the pleasure, it actually is a pleasure, to talk about how I treat snails, because it's taken quite some time to treat snails. And in the early days when we used to sell snail baits in our farming circuits, and I mean the early days, people would use a lot of snail bait around their strawberry plants to actually kill vermin. Which I don't want to go down the track, and I have no need to kill anything else other than the snails. So I've developed a few techniques which hopefully you will find usable on your property. So Ray, can I point out this? Passion fruit are snails' best food, or one of their best foods. They love them. So what I've done here, well, I try to get rid, and also we have a situation where we have mice and natural rats, which are little animals. Head to rump is about that big, and they're beautiful looking little animals, and I believe they're marsupial natural rats, but they like eating my snail bait. I prefer the snails to eat it rather than the mini rats and mice. So I tried to put my passion fruit in desperation into a big pot with a very special mixture, and the snail bait was being eaten and disappeared. It slowed them down. But then I thought, okay, I'll see if I'll use the old eggshell technique. And I did use the eggshell technique, Ray, but as you can see, it sort of moved into the soil, and it was working but not working. Then I thought, okay, next step, I'll put shade cloth on there. With snails don't like rough material. So I put shade cloth and then the bait around there, and that's been there for quite some time, and it is effective. So far it's very effective, which I'm very pleased about, Ray. We'll go to the next spot. Ray, this has been in progress for some time. This poor little rose was just being eaten all the time, so my first step was to actually put a base here. Then I also found the rats would burrow underneath it, so I had another base here to go underneath this pot. But so the idea is that the snails get attracted to it, the bait's in there, and the rats don't climb up here, so there's more bait. But it worked, but didn't work. As you can see, this poor rose. This has been down for quite some time, and it's working marvellously. The rose is now growing and reshooting, and I'll maintain it. That's been there for months. Shade cloth, 70% shade cloth, just because I've got it. Nice colour green, so it adds to the environment. And the eggshells, or any sort of material that you'd like to put which is sharp. Well, what we've got here is the sort of place where snails want to go to, and they like terracotta. So this is where I put snail bait there, and needs replenishing. But as you can see, there's evidence of snails. Oh, and there's one snail that is still in there, Ray. Not that I'm pleased that he's there, but that hasn't been replenished for some time. So that's a bit of management. Also, Ray, I do find that putting things like this under lemon trees or citrus trees, that the snails do like going into terracotta, especially when it's in the shade. Not out in the open, not in the sunny spot, but in the shade. Ray, here again I found that I had a challenge where snail bait lasting longer, or lasting more than a day or two, by using different devices. And I found even this milk bottle thing put down in between the plants, filled up with just a sprinkling of snail bait, not much, just a dessert spoonful. And this is also, I found, any sort of tower will do the job. About that high, or this high, is fine. I specifically designed this at 13 inches to be high, because industrially wise they say rats can't get up more than 13 inches. So that was done. Oh, and there's a little snail here too, just a little snail that's found a home here. And any sort of pipe is good. And then also, when it comes to, if you've got a problem with, if you feel you've got a problem with the rain's too excessive, you can cover it. But when you cover, make sure there's plenty of space for the snail to go down. Right, this is one of my prototype. I've improved on this process, but what I've done here, as you can see, there's dead snails in there, and you can also see the The benefit here is that the snails like crawling in here, and the bait is weatherproof, and it's not contaminating the soil because it's depending on the snail bait you use, we'll talk about that later, it's not contaminating soil. And when I use these things, I prefer to have them pretty well flat or sloping forward a little bit. It doesn't sort of matter, because I'll explain why it doesn't matter in the prototype. I like using two snail baits. One is this product here, which has got methaldehyde in it, and methaldehyde is the product that kills the snails. But it may not, I don't know much about methaldehyde otherwise, other than it's used to be used in cupboards to keep moths away. But because I'm more conscious about food, I use this product here. I'm not to recommend the brands here, but it has iron oxide in it. I-N-E-D-T-A, but it's iron oxide as a thing, which is quite safe. So the iron oxide product looks like this, quite safe on your hand because it's iron oxide, and it's quite safe for animals. So if you've got dogs or birds which you don't want to destroy, that's fine. And then this product here comes in different colours, but this is green. I use that for my roses only because it's cheaper. And yeah, that's the reason why, being frugal. The other thing is we sort of covered, but I will go again. What I've done is use any two containers, and I've developed this technique now where I put two containers together so it's more waterproof. And then I naturally tip the product in there, and I judge the holes, so the holes are, I'm not pouring straight down the holes. I just pour a little bit of stuff, maybe even that's excessive, right? That you don't need much snail bait. That is absolute maximum you need. And it's weatherproof, it doesn't contaminate the soil, and it's depending on how you've got it, whether you have it flat or slightly facing down or slightly up, depending on how it attracts the rainfall. That way your snail bait lasts much longer, and it's more effective because it's there for the snails. And that's the name of the game, is beating the snails. Now this might sound peculiar, but in France I eat snails. So when we sell in a farm supply store, we had this vineyard gentleman who was actually growing his snails for the purpose of eating them for himself. So he naturally was using just he made sure they weren't on poisons. In fact, he was purging them like a brand. But actually, if you're using a product like this, iron oxide, in your snail bait, and you feel like you want to do what this vigneron did, use the snails for food, well, common garden snail, he was using them as a bit of fun, naturally.